Peace and blessings to everybody tuning in right now. I'm currently in Egypt, better known as Kemet. Kemet, meaning land of the blacks, of the black skinned, right? Um, I've been traveling and visiting a lot of sites, a couple of past days. Went to different temples, visited some of the pyramids, of course, the Giza pyramid, the Red Pyramid, the Step Pyramid. I visited the Temple of Edfu, Temple of Karnak, Temple of Luxor, Temple of, well, the Ramesseum, the Seraphim, Valley of the Kings, Valley of the Queens. I visited quite some places these past couple of 2 weeks. Um, so I'm just gonna reflect real quick on what's been going on. And I've been planning this trip for a long time. It's been many years of me imagining coming to this place. As y'all can see, my skin is glowing. I'm looking good and healthy. Um, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reflect on this trip real quick and tell y'all what to expect from this place. Me personally, I got half West African blood in me, and in my family, they always taught me that we come from Egypt and then we traveled down the Nile. We traveled down the Nile. The Nile is the river, one of the biggest rivers in Africa that travels down from Egypt all the way down to Ethiopia and even further down, I think so. So, in my family, I have been taught that our tribe, our ancestors traveled down the Nile and traveled all the way to West Africa and expanded. So, I finally came here visiting the land of my ancestors, visiting the land of all our ancestors, black people, Africans, or black Americans. This is the essence. Now, the thing is, when you touch down here for the first time, you get really confused. Because in this day and time, Egypt is ruled by Arabs, right? And it's been like that for quite some time. I think the past 800 years, Arabs been running this place. So you're not really gonna understand because it doesn't feel like Africa, right? Now the thing about Egypt or Kemet is that it is a melting pot. It has been a center spot for a lot of people. A lot of people wanted to conquer this place and claim it claim it to their own because it was a melting pot, right? So the truth is, real ancient Kemet was built by black people, black African people, and it was built from all different types of tribes, um, from whole Africa. So you got to look at ancient Egypt as like a final civilization of all different African tribes. So it is a final representation of whole Africa because you had all different types of tribes of Africa coming together there and building this huge empire, right? So what that led up to is that they became a high civilization, and they had definitely contact to extraterrestrials who helped them get into metaphysics and quantum physics and understand the astral plane and communicate with higher dimensions and master perfect geometry, biogeometry, and help them build the pyramids. Um, yeah. So, of course, when you build such a glorious empire, you're going to receive a lot of envy from other civilizations. So, there were a lot of bad eyes on Egypt, but at the same time, a lot of inspiration. You can tell because the Greeks came here to learn, and a lot of different other people, like even Jesus, came to Egypt at some point to study. And yeah, so a lot of people wanted to conquer this place because it wasn't really owned by any specific people. It was really just owned by Africans, so that you couldn't tell like this tribe built or this tribe owns Egypt or Kemet. It was always different people, so they were always battling with Mesopotamian people like the Assyrians, Sumerians, trying to conquer that place, the Romans, you know, and then the latest been the Arabs who took over this place, right? Now they're not going to tell you that because they want to claim this whole history for themselves, right? They want to claim this magnificent architecture and extraterrestrial knowledge that has been put into this architecture for themselves, right? And create their own version for the world to believe, which is a lie. So, by visiting all these different locations, you will sense a certain perfection because all of these monuments have been built in extreme perfection, right? So, when you step into these places, your subconscious feels that something is different, and you're not used to this type of perfection, right? So there's a lot to get into as I'm talking right now. I'm realizing like this is something I could be talking for a very long time, but hear me out. So a lot of people get confused with all the deities and all these beings that's in these hieroglyphs and what's that and who is this, and there's so many deities portrayed on these walls, right? And Egyptologists have figured out that there are over 740 deities known that the ancient Egyptians portrayed and worshipped, right? Now, modern scientists and Egyptologists think that the ancient Egyptians referred to them as gods, which is a lie because they had a term, an ancient Egyptian term for all of these deities, which was the Neter, 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 it's Neter. And the Neter is actually nothing else but nature. When you do the etymology, the word nature comes from the word Neter. So the Neter were the deities that the ancient Egyptians um, worship. But actually, all of these deities were just different elements of nature. So they were actually just paying homage to nature in all actuality. And by getting in tune with nature, they had different contexts and different there were actually real deities speaking to these people because they were tuning into nature. So there were different deities from nature giving them certain knowledge and advices and technology, right? Nowadays, we're living in a complete opposite civilization and culture because human beings are completely disconnected to nature. In matter of fact, we are actually destroying it and harming it. So these deities is obviously not contacting us or giving us any advices because we have lost absolute connection to it. But as you see, the ancient Egyptians had all these contacts and they're very, very well aware of to worship these beings, not worship them like bowing down, but admiring them and respecting them. So they respected nature in a very high way. So this is why they had different access to certain information because information is always being is the information has to be granted to you. If you're not if you're not being granted the information, that means you're not ready. That has a lot to do with your frequencies. You have to change your frequencies and your spirit and because these deities are very sensitive. Everything in nature is sensitive and has an equilibrium. So if you're not tuning into these certain frequencies, you're not getting the granted access. You're not getting no access to the information. So you have to really it's a process, you see. So ancient Egyptians were very well aware of that. So this is one thing that a lot of people don't understand. So the word nature just comes from the word neter, and neter were the beings, the deities, the elements of nature, of neter, the elements. So they say there's over 741 deities that the ancient Egyptians admired. That means there were 741 different elements that they refer to. That's a lot. So, see, there's a difference between that has a lot to do with spirituality because the ancient Egyptians were the most religious culture ever discovered. So, they really admired them and really had a spiritual bond with the Neter, with nature. You feel me? So, so when you're that spiritual, you also gain access to spiritual technology, and this is where we get into the second thing I want to talk about, which is how they built all these great monuments, the pyramids, for instance, which they still speculate about how they were built. So when you are being granted spiritual technology, you can do things that is unexplainable to a primitive civilization like ours in this day and time, because we are not spiritual and we are not connected to Neter, to nature. So we don't understand. When we That's why we haven't figured out yet how the pyramids were built. Well, scientists haven't figured out yet because they are too invested into science than into spirituality. But they don't understand that the both goes hand in hand. So you should actually advance spiritually while you're advancing in science and in technology. So the ancient Egyptians were granted access to spiritual technology, which includes a lot of stuff that would appear as magic to us, right? So, I mean, for instance, voodoo, just to say that real quick, voodoo is just a split, it's just a little, it's just a little piece of of the magic that has been passed on to Africans to keep on doing what they do while they split parts. When they left Egypt, they took that with them. They was gifted that gift of voodoo to keep on living in nature. But that was just a small thing. So if you think of like voodoo being a magical thing or whatever, you gotta imagine there was a something way bigger than that, which included technology. So what I want to say is that spiritual technology um, is what the ancient Egyptians used to build a lot of the stuff. So the pyramids were built by levitation technology. I've been inside the pyramids and I've seen the precisiveness and the perfection and the huge granite blocks which weigh tons, which could have never been lifted by human beings, no matter what tool you use. So these things have been built with spiritual technology, and not only that, they have been placed on Earth ley lines. The ley lines is the energy lines of the Earth, the grid lines of the Earth. So the pyramids are placed very precisely on these ley lines, which at the same time are very precisely lined up with the stars. So that could never be a coincidence. So this is very advanced, high knowledge of astrology, technology, and spirituality. But the thing is, like, to us, that seems very advanced. Once you really understand these things, you'll be like, wow, that was super advanced. But what if those things weren't even as advanced? And what if those things were just another little piece of knowledge from a much greater civilization? Because I heard that the ancient Atlanteans, which was a civilization that dates back to 150,000 and 200,000 BCE. I heard that the ancient Egyptians learned from them. So the Atlanteans were even more advanced. So visiting all these places, you find a lot of unanswered questions that nobody can answer, right? So it's very mysterious. There's a lot of mysterious places in these environments, you know. So, but it doesn't make sense because the whole land is now ruled by Arabs, which are all governed by a Islamic regime. They're all Muslims, and it has nothing to do with the ancient Egyptian religion or spirituality. It is far, very far from it, and it's very like it doesn't make no sense because living in such a country and being face to face with these huge monuments and temples and pyramids and not recognizing the value of it and the culture of it is a very ignorant thing, but it is what it is. So yeah, a lot of the scientists and a lot of the rich people they already stole most of the artifacts which contain all of the valuable information, and they already took and stole most of the things since a long time already. And these places, not all of them, but like the Giza pyramids are is always packed with people. There's a long line of people waiting to get inside, and it's not easy to get inside because it's very narrow, and then you gotta walk a lot of steps while bending over, and really, it's not comfortable at all. And another thing is that there has never been found an entrance. Well, the entrances, the original entrances, have all been sealed by the ancient Egyptians. So once this thing got discovered, they blasted, they blasted, they blasted open a new entrance, which is not the original entrance. So they couldn't even open the entrance. Imagine that. It has been sealed by huge granite blocks. So they couldn't even you can't even use the original entrance inside of it to get inside of it. If you see me. So they just dug themselves through the pyramids through an artificial hallway. Like it's not the original hall. And I found that really stupid because it's like, this is not even the real. This is just some digged up dirt that they dug up to get inside. They didn't even have no patience to understand how to open things. So there was absolutely no respect in these places for these ancient cultures and civilizations. And yeah, I am absolutely 100% sure that extraterrestrials had contact to ancient Egypt, and a lot of other people are sure as well because it's documented on a lot of. It's documented on these walls. It's documented on papyrus, on papers, on tablets. It has to be all right, and yeah, it's definitely an important piece of our history that is contained here in this country, in this environment, in this land. So that has been quite amazing. For real.